Well, good morning, everybody. Great seeing some familiar names popping in. We've got quite a few. I think we had 60 registered for this class, so it should be a fun class. And got a few more people just getting logged into the audio, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So great to see you, Flo. I'm never sure if that's Flo or Robin, but either way, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. All right, so I am excited today to take you on a tour of Cloud CMA. Obviously, the name of the game these days is to have as many listings as possible because we certainly need the inventory at this point. But I'm really here to show you some time-saving tips and techniques when creating your CMA, what makes it easy, and also what pieces can you add in that's going to make your CMA stand out from anyone else's. So I'm excited to take you through. But first, I have to introduce, first of all, my best friend in the whole wide world, also a longtime agent for over 30 years. It's hard to believe. I think she got her license when she was like 2. But my good friend, Lisa Harris, is standing by behind the scenes. You want to say hi to Lisa? I want to say hi to everybody, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you, Colleen.
Nice to see, well, nice to hear you. And Lisa's going to be helping out with questions today. So generally when we have a larger group, it's a little bit easier when there's 2 of us. So Lisa will be behind the scenes answering questions because we certainly want this to be as interactive as possible. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. First, I wanted to tell you we are recording this class. So if you have to step away, hopefully to bottom line an offer maybe, or grab a phone call, don't worry. I'm going to show you right now where you can find this recording. It usually takes me about 24 hours to get it uploaded, but you can go right into Paragon and you can see all of our class recordings. I've also added some cheat sheets. As an agent myself, I like to be able to go back. If you're not doing a CMA next month and maybe it's 2 months before you do your next CMA, it's nice when you have those little cheat sheets to sort of go back just to sort of get you started or maybe point it in the right direction on something. So in your GoToWebinar panel, there is 4 cheat sheets, one for the lead generation that Cloud CMA has that I'm going to show today. One's a step-by-step. One's how to add custom things into your cloud. So if you open up your GoToWebinar panel, you will see 4 different handout attachments. I just like to include those because it makes it a little easier when you have a cheat sheet to go back to. All you have to do is click on it to save it. You can print it out, but I'm also going to show you next where you can find those too. So, all right, Lisa, I'm going to go ahead and kick off our class today. And I'm going to start in Paragon. And Lisa, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, I can.
All right, perfect. So where we're going to start today is where you can find the recording of this class. Again, it takes me about 24 hours, but I'm trying to get everything in one easy spot. So I hate when people move the cheese, right? I want you to be able to go in and find it at any time you need it. And it's right under resources. So resources right now is where you find all of your great tools like Cloud CMA. But right at the bottom, we've set up an education area. So if you go to resources, over to education, this is where you can find all of our recorded classes. So we record just about every class. And let's go ahead. So Lisa, can you see the Paragon screen? So I got a little.
No, I only see your screensaver.
All right, well, then that is not helpful. Let me switch over to what we're sharing. How about that? Can we see that now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I had 2 monitors going and apparently I was showing the wrong one. All right, so right under resources, you're going to have all of your agent tools. Again, this is where you'll find Cloud CMA. But right over here under education, this is where you can find all of our recorded classes. We record just about every class. And so if you click on recorded webinars, what we've set it up to do is we've actually set it up to take you right to our YouTube channel. All you have to do is click on the video section. And let's say you wanted to see Lisa's great public records class that she did on the 19th. That was a fantastic class. She showed you how to set up your sphere of influence, how to actually outline markets that you want to target, how to create custom mailing labels, how to even filter it down to maybe who has lived there for over 10 years. She showed you some great tips and techniques. But you can see each one of our classes, all you have to do is simply click on it and you can fast forward right to any particular class you're looking for. All right, also under Paragon, you can find helpful cheat sheets under this MLS documents. Now, I went ahead and added them to the GoToWebinar area today. But again, if you go to MLS documents right up here, and even if you're coming in, by the way, from one of our vendored MLSs, you will also have an education and cheat sheet file folder. Kind of looks just like this, and it will say MRIS education, and it will say cheat sheets for Paragon and all of our products. As a matter of fact, Lisa and I wrote probably about 98 of these. And we did that because a lot of times we would get the cheat sheets from these technology companies. And both Lisa and I, as agents, we were like, what the heck does this mean? It didn't make any sense. It wasn't in realtor speak, if you will. And so what we did is we rewrote them so that they were short and sweet, and it has big, an X of where to click. And so it made it really easy to follow along. Okay, so when we take a look at cloud, which is what we're going to do now, I kind of like to teach this class backwards, if you will, and hopefully that makes sense. I kind of like to show you the finished product first so you can see all the really cool things cloud does. And then I'm going to actually walk you through step by step exactly how to create it. I am kind of a hands-on person. I like somebody to literally walk me through A to Z, and that's what we're going to do today. But I kind of want to show you the finished product first, and that's going to allow you to see exactly how it's going to look at the end, and then you can choose if you want to add some additional outside pieces too. So I just think that makes a little bit more sense when you can kind of see it and say, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And let's actually start there. So this is a property that I closed not that long ago. And when I did the CMA, I wanted to include things like the tax records. I wanted to include things like there were some outstanding taxes that weren't paid. I wanted to bring those in. There was also a little bit of an outstanding water bill that needed to be caught up. So I like to have all of that in the CMA. I also like to include a way to educate that seller very quickly and easily on what's going on in their marketplace, because every city right now is showing different numbers. And so I'm going to actually blow this up so you can kind of see the whole thing. We'll do it on full screen mode so you can see it. But Cloud CMA allows you to make a very easy, my average CMA takes about 7 to 9 minutes. And really the hardest part is pulling your comps in Paragon, which we're going to walk through today. Once you do that, you click what we call the easy button. It's then going to pull all of those comparables directly into Cloud CMA. I actually have my template set up in Cloud, so really all of the hard work is done. There's nothing else I need to do. However, what you're seeing on my second page here, my first page is all customized. My second page is just information I've brought over from my company. Now, it looks like I spent a lot of time setting this up, but I'm going to be honest, it took me about 30 seconds. I literally went to my company website, copied and pasted it into my template, so it's that easy. You can also create a contact me page. Then I brought in the realist record and the BSNA record. I also brought in the MLS listing ticket of when they purchased it. So I kind of like that Girl Scout. I really like to do my homework. I want to have all of those pieces right in my CMA. And I'm going to show you how to bring in, even though the tax records are somewhere different, I'm going to show you how to import all of those today. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why do you put in realist and BSNA? And sometimes there's really valuable differences that you might want to point out, or you might want to question the seller on when you're sitting with them. And I'm going to give you some examples of those as well. But as you can see here, I brought in the realist record, which is telling me what the square footage is. It's 3 bedrooms. It had 2 full baths. when the house was built, 1,384 square feet. I can see it's a ranch style home. It has a full basement. I can see that it has a porch, a 2-car attached garage, and a deck. So I can start gathering basically all the information that I need to do my homework to find the right comparables. So this is really all about just gathering the information. So when I'm looking for how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms in that 1 mile radius of where this home is, I have all the data right in front of me. I also like to include it for another reason. If they say, well, Colleen, how do you know our square footage is 1384? Maybe it's a first time seller. I want to be able to show them where I pulled that information from as well. And a lot of times you'll also notice in the realist record, you'll see discrepancies. You'll see that maybe the realist record says the MLS says one thing and the tax information is pointing to something different. So those are areas I generally will highlight and ask my seller. Good case in point, I swear, in real estate, you do this long enough, you can't make these stories up. It's like eventually you're going to have a few great real estate stories to use. And this particular scenario is listing a house in Sterling Heights. The realist record said that the tax information said it was a 1-story home. The MLS information said it was a 2-story home. I'm looking at the picture, I can clearly see it's a 2-story home. So something isn't making sense. Sure enough, got to the home and the homeowner explained, he didn't speak really great English, but I garnered that he built it was kind of like a dormer. It wasn't a full on second story, but he had done all the work himself. So my next question was, I was wondering, did you pull a permit? The answer was no. So we knew that that's maybe a little bit of cleanup work and good questions to ask, right, as we're going into our listing appointment. So it can basically highlight some things that you want to pay attention to. So if the tax record is different than the MLS data, sometimes there's really good questions to ask there. It'll also, if you look at the bottom, it'll also show you if they've recently refied, how they purchased the home. As you can see, there was a refi done in 2012 on this property. If it's going into, let's say it's going into sheriff sale, that is recorded here as well. So it's always those good questions that we get to ask. Because sometimes, let's face it, our sellers might be a little bit nervous to bring those kind of things up. All right, so then we also have the BS&A record. Again, just confirming our square footage, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, but I want to have all of that in here. This next piece is one of my favorite things to add in. It's literally 2 clicks to create the graph that you're looking at. I add this into every single CMA that I do, and I think it's really crucial, especially right now. We're kind of in an interesting time of the market. Still not enough inventory, right? We are starting to see things kind of level out in the way of you can't overprice them like we were before, right? That was happening a lot. A lot of agents were taking them a little bit higher because, of course, they're going to sell. So how are we educating our sellers on what we need to do right now in their marketplace? So with 2 clicks, you can create this great graph. And so at the time that I sat down with her, we were 42.7% down in our inventory. And this is Clinton Township. And what that meant is, and you can I'll highlight the area I'm referring to right now, there were 89 homes on the market in March of 23. Need to go there. And there were only 51 homes on the market in March of 24. And that was when we sat down to originally list her home. And this is for the Clinton Township area. So what it does is it breaks those metrics down. And of course, we're looking at supply and demand, right? So at that time, because she's down almost 43% in inventory in her city, we look at that average sales price, wow, which went from 271.5 to 321. Now, again, that's the average, 321.5. So we saw almost a 20% increase in our average sales price due to that there certainly wasn't enough inventory to meet the demand. How many days is it taking? Is it less or more days until we're seeing things go pending and then to close? So this is a great graph. Again, it's 2 clicks. You're literally just clicking on the county and the city name to create it if you have never done this before. I'm going to walk you through it. I do also want to point out, if you're coming in from one of our vendored MLSs, Every MLS, because we actually vendor 9 other MLSs currently, every MLS offers different products and services. So if you're a My Real Source member, everything you see here today that we're going to cover is included. So, but do check with your board if there's something you don't see under your resource list. Okay, so I like this graph too because it breaks down single family homes versus condos. I bring this into every single CMA that I do. It's literally important, I think, right now because every city we're seeing something different. Those numbers are wildly different in some places. The other thing is the map of the comparables. I also like how this shows the comparables. And I'm actually going to show you something brand new. If you've never used the interactive cloud, I'm going to show you how their new CMA is where it will even highlight differences. I remember, and it's really funny because I did my very first deal with Flo Abke. And I remember writing my very first offer with her. I remember, when I was brand new in real estate, I remember one of the things that I used to do is I used to always grab my post-it notes, and on all my comparables, I had this one had a 2-car garage, this one had more square footage, and that's why it closed for more. Now you can do that same thing right on your comparables, but in a much nicer looking way, thankfully. But I like the way cloud presents the comparables for one reason too. Ooh, that's kind of a shocking blue there. I guess this was kind of a crazy one to show, but I like that it includes all the interior photos. And the reason I like that is if let's say Flo is sitting with her seller and that seller says, Flo, but did Annapolis Drive, did it have a finished basement? Because, mine has a finished basement. Flo wants to be able to address that right then. And so she can actually, wow, that's an equally yellow watermelon color, or equally pink watermelon color. It's very, very bright. So she can very clearly see here and very brightly see that the basement was partially finished. So she's able to answer those questions while sitting with that homeowner because it's also bringing in the interior photos. So I can see up to 99 photos. Now, if you're printing this, don't know that I'd want to print all of those photos. So it does give you your choice. You can choose the first photo, you can choose the first dozen photos, or again, I generally show this on my laptop so I don't print it out unless, sometimes if I'm meeting with an older client that I know, might want a paper, actual physical paper copy, then I may go ahead and, print those all out. But if the majority of the time, I'm literally just saving it to my desktop and emailing them a copy at the end. But as we're going through, I can see all of the interior photos. I can see if things have been updated versus maybe mine needs a little updating. Can actually see all of that going through. I also, as I mentioned, like to include the MLS listing ticket if it has been listed before. And I kind of, a long time ago, 25 years ago, when I got my license, I always learned from Floyd Wickman that if you're going to sit with a seller, you should always include your actives and pendings around that seller as well. Of course, the close number is really the number that we need. That's the one we're deriving our price from, right? Where how many concessions, how did they buy it, what was the sales price? All of that comes from the important closed records. But I think every seller today wants to know what's going on, 3 doors down on that home that's been active for a while or that has gone pending. And so having those in here, I think, as well, and including those interior photos, I think is very helpful. They also give you some pre-written marketing pieces. As you can see here, I love this one. It says, hey, properties are selling on average is 105% of what they're listed for. And you're looking about 13 days before you go pending. So all great information to be able to share with our sellers. But you can make your report as detailed as you want, or you can skinny it down. I'm kind of a meat and potatoes girl. So I'm kind of a here's the comps, here's what you need to know, here's the information about your home. But there are some agents that I know that have all their testimonials in here. They have all their designations in here. And if you are one of those agents that has all of that and you want to use that, you can set that up in your template. I'm kind of a short and sweet, here's what you really need to know about your property, here's the homework I've done. But if you want to add in those extra pieces, you can do that too. All right, so that is the end result. That is the end product. in the PDF version. And what I mean is they just released this new interactive version that I'm going to show you right now. And I have to be honest, I love a lot of it. You can do a video resume talking about yourself. Maybe you've got a video of you shaking hands in front of the sign with a client and you want that to be part of your CMA. Maybe you have a marketing plan that you want to be included in your CMA and you want to digitize that. You can do that as well. One of the things that I really like about the new Cloud CMA, the way it's interactive, is it allows you to make changes on the fly. And what I mean by that is if, let's say, Flo is sitting with her seller and the seller says, hey, John said that he closed yesterday and he got this. But maybe Flo, because she's always prepared, maybe she did her CMA 2 days ago. She's able to pull that property up in her CMA and with one click could add it a comparable in if that were the case. So there's some really cool things that you can do in the interactive CMA that I'm going to show you next. The one thing to note about that is they're made the exact same way. It's just how do you want to present it? Are you more comfortable presenting it in the PDF version, like I just showed you, where you're literally clicking through, or maybe you're printing it off, or do you want to use this new interactive? So let's take a look at that. The nice thing is, again, they're really made the exact same way. The big difference is how you present them. So right here, I can view them in the PDF version, which is what we just looked at. But maybe I want to view this one in the live interactive version. Maybe I'm going to meet with this seller and I want to be able to pull things in. Maybe it's more new construction. So let me kind of show you this one. This is that interactive version. And of course, you could click Start Presentation and it will walk you through. But some of the cool things here are, let's say that Flo is presenting this to a client who's on vacation in Florida. They're selling a few properties with her. She's going to do the CMA right through maybe Zoom or maybe a live streaming, kind of like we're doing right now. But she wants to be able to see them and talk with them and explain it. So she can actually go up to this hamburger stack. She can go to this little bottom right here where she can actually present her CMA via Zoom. If you use Microsoft Teams, it'll work with that. You can present it via Google Hangouts. You can use Skype or Screen. Screen is kind of the makers of Slack, if you know anything about Slack. But it's just a different way to how you want to present it. So let me show you the big differences in this new interactive one. It's a little bit easier to present because you're just literally clicking your way through. Again, you can add more videos into this versus a PDF. You can't really add a video into a PDF, where this, you can add videos if you've got video marketing. But here's where I found the big differences, and it's really in the comparables. So the first thing that I liked about this is it's bringing in our subject property here, but it's also showing me that this lot size is a little bigger. This one has, and hopefully you can see this on GoToWebinar, but it actually highlights in green or in red. So if it's got an additional bathroom, do you see how it highlights that in green, that there's one additional bathroom? That's a plus, right? If it's got less square footage, or it's doesn't have a garage, or the garage is smaller, it's also highlighting that here in red. So if they're wondering, why did this property close for more, or why did this property close for less, I kind of have those highlights already right here. So I know oh yeah, this one closed for more because it had a lot more square footage. It'll also highlight right here what's most expensive versus what's the closest comparable. So it's really easy to go through these with that seller. Now, here's what I really like. All right, so I can go through these. I can see which one was closest to them. But if that seller says, well, Flo, but what about Joe Schmagecki's house over there on the corner? And for whatever reason, most of the time, we didn't add that comparable for a really good reason, right? We didn't add it because it's a 5,000 square foot colonial and it's 1,000 square foot brick ranch, right? But they don't know that. The sellers are wondering, why did you not choose this particular comp? So sometimes it's just being able to pull those up live and sort of be able to educate the seller on, no, this really wasn't a good comp and here's why. So how do you do that? So if they ask you about a home, you can simply click on this map button at the top now. And what I generally do is I kind of zoom in because as you zoom in, it's going to give you all the MLS data. So let's say they're asking, well, why didn't you choose that one over there on Dachshund Drive? I can click on it and I can see, oh, that one actually didn't close. It's unconditionally withdrawn. Or maybe maybe it's over here on Wessel Court that they're asking about. I can literally click on a selected property and I can see that property and I can see the details for that property. So sorry, it took a second to load there. So I can go ahead, I can click on it, I can see the details for that property. And if I decide, wow, you know what? Yeah, I did my CMA 2 days ago and this one closed yesterday and it is a good comp, I can simply toggle and now include that in my comparables. So now when we go back to our comparables, you can see that house was actually added in. I probably wouldn't have selected that one, but it does give you those options to add things in that maybe you hadn't considered. And more than that, I just really like to be able to go in and say, hey, no, I didn't choose this for this particular reason. So it's nice when you can see it all on one screen without having to start all over. You can also change your suggested list price. I love that. True story. Again, you can't make it up. Getting ready to go list a home and drove by it, checking out the neighborhood, and every flower was perfectly planted in a straight line. The shutters were painted. It was absolutely adorable. Everything on the outside was absolutely perfect. I literally opened the door, and as I always do, I kicked off my shoes, stepped into 4-inch blue shag carpeting, and I mean like Grover blue. Walked in, every single wall had those huge Brady Bunch stick-on flowers, the kind I'm talking about. And I know they say it's coming back, but it ain't ever coming this far back. So if you know what I mean, this house needed a lot more updating than I went in. So this was back before we could do all these cool things. And I'm literally in the bathroom with my CMA trying to rip the suggested list price out of my nice bound report, right? Now with one click, you can go ahead and you can make those adjustments and simply remove or adjust your suggested list price. And so I'm going to show you how to do all of that next. So this is one of the features I really like, is that you can literally click on that map. You can see a comp, and again, sometimes they're just asking about a particular comp. You just want to zoom in. It will then display the MLS listing dots. Just find that particular home that maybe they're asking about, click on it, and then you can decide, do you want to include that comp, or maybe you don't want to include that comp, but it at least allows you to go through that with the seller. So I like that it's making us more interactive without having to grab our phones. Well, let me try to find that property. It's doing it all in one place. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Lisa, do we have any questions so far?
I've answered a couple. Some are you'll need to show when you're actually going through and creating a report. So once you get to that point, I will bring it up again.
Perfect. All right. So yeah, so this is kind of the end result. I just kind of wanted to show you the two different ways. And again, you make the CMA the exact same way, which we're going to walk through next from A to Z. But it's just, how do you want to present them? So do you want to present them in the PDF version? If you do, you just click on PDF and it's going to open in that first version that I showed you. Which is going to look just like this, where you can literally go through page by page in a PDF format. If you're looking for that more interactive version, as I mentioned, maybe you want to, be able to do a little bit more. Maybe you don't know a lot about the home and the homeowner, and you want to do it a little more interactive so that you can pull in things maybe that you need to on the fly. Then that's just view that live report, and that's going to give you those panels where you can kind of just jump around and see those different comps. Either way, and I don't want to go too far into it because I want to show you how to make those. Either way, it's just, how do you want to present it? Okay. So let's get into how we did this. How do we pull in those outside documents? How do we choose those right comps? Where do we start? Now, as I mentioned, on average, it takes about 7 to 9 minutes to prepare your comps and hit the easy button. If you set up your template like I show you today, it really shouldn't take you much longer than that. Sometimes you have a specialty property, so maybe you have to kind of expand. Maybe you're doing waterfront, or maybe you're in a rural area. Sometimes you have to expand your search parameters when it comes to finding the right comparables. But I'm going to show you all the basics that you need to know today. All right. So first, we want to go in and we want to start gathering the information. So how are we going to do that? Well, let's pretend for a moment that we're going to list my subject property that I always use because it's got lots of good examples. Let's say that we're going to go list 41539 Westwell Drive. The first thing I like to do is I like to go into the MLS, and I want to see, I see it's closed 3 times. And by the way, my real source we have information from over 15 years ago. So there are comps pretty much most of the time you're going to find that it's been listed at one point. If they've never listed their home before, I'm going to show you how to find that separately. However, it's always a great idea to figure out when did they buy it and what did they pay. And so I always like to start right in the MLS. So I can see that there are 3 listing records here. And I'm just going to click on this listing 3 because I kind of want to get an idea. Now, your results might look a little bit different than mine. And I've customized my results because one of the things I really like to see is I like to see who had the property listed. So I want to point out that you can actually even customize your results, whether it's your search results, whether it's your active properties that you're getting ready to go show, you can actually customize things. And one of the things that I really like, and I know Lisa really likes, you start doing this for 25 and 30 years and you work with great agents, like Flo and Ed Martin, who I love working. I like to see those names when I'm getting ready to schedule my showings. I've been very fortunate. I've worked with mostly great agents, just a handful of ones that, don't return your calls, or you feel like you haven't talked to the entire transaction. You left 20 messages. You know how that goes. But most of the time, it's been a really great experience. But those agents that are well respected and I've had great deals with, I probably want to move them up in my showing list. So I might make theirs the very top properties that we're looking at. Where maybe an agent who never called me for an entire transaction, I make it the bottom of the list. So I like to see that right from my search results. And so if you don't know how to customize that, let me show you. You can go right to customize here, and you can actually customize almost anything in Paragon, which really does make it nice. So I'm going to say I want to show you this. So I want to add, I'm going to remove it just so I can show you how to add it in. I want to add that agent name, or maybe even agent name and phone number, right to my list of results. You can go right up to the top, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to add the agent name and phone number to my search results. So I'm going to check that off. I'm going to see agent name and phone number right here. I'm going to hit add. Now, the cool thing is, did you know that you can drag and drop your fields into whatever order you want? So if you're like me and I was scrolling all the way over to find out price per square foot every time, oh my gosh, I hated that. So move it up so it's closer to the beginning so you don't have to scroll for that information. So I'm going to move agent name, and I'm going to say I want to put that right by year built. And by the way, you can add in, there's like 3,000 fields to choose from. You can add in if you're looking for acreage or you're looking for a particular item. Don't be afraid to customize it and add it in. You can always go back to the default, so you can't break it. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to now save that. Once you save that, it will be there from there going forward. So it saves it right in your preferences. So you really only have to do it once. Now, as you can see right here, I can see the agent name and phone number right in my search results, which I really like. You can also drag and drop these into different orders if that's easier for you. And again, it will save that in your preferences. So if you were like me and I found myself always having to scroll over for stuff, remember, you can remove or add any field and you can put them in the order that's easiest for you. Okay. So I'm starting to do my homework. I'm looking, I can see that this is the last time that this property is closed. The first thing I want to do now is I want to go in and get those BS&A records. So one of the nice benefits for my Real Source members is that we are trying to find great ways to give back to our members. If you've ever gone into BSNA, you know that for many of the municipalities, it's $6, and it just went up, by the way. Used to be $2 back in the day. Now it's $6.15 per property record. It goes up to $6.15 next month. Um, per property record, which I think is crazy. I really wish that the Michigan Association of Realtors would step in and work on a better tax record system for us, because Michigan is the sixth worst in the United States, which pains me to say this, sixth worst in the United States for tax information. I mean, there are areas that there really is nothing on particular properties, and that is so wrong. You go out to California and their tax records are amazingly not only accurate, but they have so much more in their tax records than we do. And I'm hoping one day that the Michigan Association of Realtors will help us with that. We've brought it to them a couple times, but that is something I think that we really need, is better tax results, so we can see the tax records and the property information in an easier fashion. But anyway, right now it's $6.15 for many of the municipalities. So if you're a My Real Source member, if you are searching in Genesee County, any of the Grosse Points, St. Clair County, Sanilac County, or Macomb County, when you click this little, and I apologize, it kind of looks like a garbage can. It's supposed to be a government pillar. But if you click on that government pillar, instead of you paying the $6.15, it actually sends that $6.15 charge to us. So it was a way that we could give back to our members so that they didn't have to pay and get their credit card out every time they were looking in those particular areas. So again, any of the 5 Grosse Points, Macomb County, Sanilac County, Genesee County, St. Clair County, and Macomb, if you're looking in those and you click on that little garbage can looking icon, which is a government pillar, it will actually send us your bill instead of you. So it was a way that we could give back to our members. So if I'm ready to take a look at that tax information, again, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And immediately what that's going to do is, instead of me having to go look it up in the tax records, it just takes me right there. Now, what I generally do is I go to this print button, I print it out as a PDF so I can easily import it into my Cloud CMA report. Here's another little cheat, though. I'm always looking for the little cheats or the little easy tips, right? This happens to be a public records photo of the home. Okay, so I would never recommend stealing an agent's photo, because that would be wrong. That would be copyright. This public record photo, though, I would like to make this just the front cover of my CMA for the seller. So I will generally click on the BSNA record, and I will right click, and I will do a save as. So that way I can save this right to my desktop. Save this in my class examples for today here. I'm going to give it a name, and then I'm going to use this photo for my front cover. Now, if you don't have a photo for your front cover, that's totally okay. It'll put one of those Google overhead shots, but I think those look kind of cheesy for a front cover. These homeowners are proud of their home. I want it to look like their home does. So I recommend doing that. You can also see that there's a floor plan in here, and there's some other elements. Those are always great to bring in. You can just click the arrow and it'll take you to those options too. But I like to have all of this information. I save it as a PDF. I pull it into my Cloud CMA report. This is, again, where we're starting to gather all of our data. Yes, I can see that the exterior is brick. I can see that it does have a porch. I can see that it does have a 2-car garage, and I'm gathering all that data. The other thing is, the building departments, many of them are recording all of your permits. If there was a fire on the property and you wanted to display that permits were pulled for work done, as you can see, there was some work done on this particular property. I like to have all of that in my CMA because, again, I want to ask those questions. Outstanding taxes, those are going to show as well, and I definitely like to include those. What I like about that is I had a lady call me to list her condo in Clinton Township. And when she called, she referenced right away, I don't know how people can afford to live here. The taxes are ridiculous. And it was kind of odd. I mean, I knew the condo. I knew kind of what it was worth. And I didn't really understand what she was getting at. So I went in, and sure enough, she owed like $15,000 in outstanding taxes. So when I sat down with her to go over the listing of the condo, she explained that her mother had passed away. It was then transferred into her name, but it had never been homesteaded. No one had ever explained that to her. So just everything was signed over to her. And so we called the city, and she really became a client for life because we explained to the city what had happened. They agreed that yes, it should have been homesteaded, and they rebated her that money. And so she was so thankful, and she did end up listing still, but she really became not only a good friend, but a client for life because we walked her through that, and she didn't end up owing all of that money. And those are great questions to ask right from looking at these tax records, right? So I save each one of these tabs. I also listed just a $40,000 home in Warren, and it had that unpaid water bill that was attached to it. So a $40,000 home, when you've got a $1,000 unpaid water bill, that's definitely going to factor into that net out, right? And so having all of that to go through in the CMA was very helpful. So again, I go in here, I print each one of these as a PDF, I save it right to my desktop, and I pull it into cloud. Kind of that same process, except for this time I'm not going to go into BSNA. This time I'm going to go into Realist, which again is this red dot. That Realist record is going to allow me to do the same thing. I'm going to print that. And just as you saw when I opened up my PDF, my cloud PDF, I like to have all of that in here. There's a print button, same thing. I just hit print, save it to my desktop, and then I pull that into cloud. But it's also going to show you property history. Again, I can see who listed it, how long it was on the market, but I can also see if it went into sheriff sale. I can see if they refied. So I like to have all of that too. Okay, so we started doing our homework, right? We know how many bedrooms, we know how many bathrooms, we know the year built, we know the school district, we know a lot about the home now. We know it has a garage, we know it's brick, we know that it has a full basement underneath. So next, now I want to start getting together how are we going to educate the seller on what we're going to do. And so that we are going to do in Paragon under resources. Remember that great graph that I said I'd show you how to make? Right under resources in Paragon is where you can find market stats. Now, I love market stats. We have a whole market stats class. It's called our lead generation class. It does so much. You can actually post out onto social media. We show you how to include squeeze pages. So not only are you posting great information on social media, but you're capturing the lead and bringing it back for, so that you can work with that person. But I want to show you that graph that I made in 2 clicks. And so I'm clicking into the market stats. And I'm just going to go right up to here where it says fast stats. This is the quick and easy version. So let's do it. We're going to click on fast stats. Now, the 2 questions we have to answer is what county is the home in? We're going to say Macomb. And then what city do we want to run the report for? So I'm going to say that I'm going to click Sterling Heights for the home we used as our example. It's that easy. I just created that fast stats graph. So let's take a look. We can see that Sterling Heights right now, remember, it's always one rolling month behind. And the reason is it has to gather all the information for that month. But I can see Sterling Heights is down 23% in inventory. Last year, there wasn't that much to sell last year either. Last year we had 120 homes on the market. This year we have 92 homes on the market. Again, we're still seeing that average sales price, not quite the 50,000 we saw in Clinton Township from our previous example, but you can see that median has gone up about 16,000. And that average sales price too. So I print this off as a PDF. I include this in my Cloud CMA too. These are all great ways we're educating the seller. And again, if you're listing a condo, it's going to have those condo graphs or that condo data for you as well. All right, so how do we start now putting it all together? How do we make that great Cloud CMA report that we looked at in the beginning? So we're going to first go into Paragon. And really, we've got our MLS listing ticket. We've got our tax information. We've got what's going on in the marketplace. How do we come up with the right comps? So for that, I want to go up here and I want to go to this search icon at the top. By the way, if my page looks a little different than yours, it's because that there are lots of different themes that you can change your theme to. We look at it all the time, so I like to change it up every once in a while. There are some very funny ones too. There's an 80s theme where Mr. T and E.T. and Mr. T actually come out onto the screen. It does little funny things, but we stare at them all the time, so you got to change them up once in a while. But you can change your theme. And I had an agent, Lisa, you'll laugh at this. I had an agent on one of our previous classes that literally typed the question in the chat, why is there a whiskey bottle on your theme? And I think that's supposed to be maple syrup. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be maple, but if you see whiskey, that's okay. I'm going with it. So where we want to go here is we want to go into our search parameters, and obviously we want to search for the type of home that we're looking for comparables for. By the way, you can search for almost anything in here. You can find your saved searches. You can find your inventory, what you sold for this year, what you sold for the last 5 years, what you sold if you're a dual member, and maybe you want to know what was closed in this MLS and this. You can find all of that in here. But we're going to kind of keep it simple today. We're going to say that we just want to go in and find comparables for this specific property. So we're going to find comparables for our residential sale. If you're brand new, by the way, to Paragon, there are little magnifying glasses to the right of each field, just telling you what goes in that field. So if you're not sure what type is referring to, you can say, okay, it's just asking me, is it a single family or a condo? You can also customize this. I recently just taught a class in Detroit, and they were saying, Colleen, this doesn't work for us because we need to search by zip code. I said, great, let's add the zip code field. So that's why I might have a couple different fields in here, but you can customize and add whatever fields make your searching easier. So for them, zip code, because Detroit's such a large area, they said, we need to hone it down into zip codes because that's how we search the most. And so you can add those fields in. If I were really doing a CMA, typing in the whole city of Sterling Heights in this area, that wouldn't really make sense. I want to do what an appraiser's going to do, right? I want to search within a 1 mile radius. I want to do what an appraiser's going to do in that area. And so I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But I do want to show you one little tip that I have to give my good friend Lisa all the credit for. She taught me this. And it's a little bit off topic, but I have to tell you, it's really important because a lot of people, when we're searching, we're looking for some time-saving tips, especially if you're searching with a buyer. We'll flip this around. Let's say you're not on the listing side, but you're on the buy side. And your buyer is looking in a big area. So we'll use Flo again. Flo is working with a buyer or an investor who's looking in all of Macomb County, all of Oakland County, but he doesn't like 4 particular cities. Okay, maybe he doesn't want to deal with the certs in center line, or maybe he doesn't want to deal with something in Fraser. Instead of typing in all of those cities, which would be like 60 cities, and then minusing those 2, let me show you a shortcut. All right, so let me show you this little shortcut that I did not know, that I have to give my good friend Lisa kudos for showing me. So first and foremost, when I went in to start setting up searches, one thing that kind of threw me a little bit was that there are 5 Clinton townships in the state of Michigan. Now, I would not have believed that personally. I would have thought 1 state, 1 city, right? That would have made sense. But no, there are actually 5 Clinton townships in the state of Michigan, which didn't make any sense to me. So how do I know which one of those Clinton townships is the Clinton township that I want for my client in Macomb County? So kind of confusing, right? You set up the wrong one, you're going to get Clinton Township up in the UP, which is not helpful for your client. So when you're looking at this, it's kind of like, well, which one of these is the right one? So there's 2 ways to figure that out. One is you could go down to county and you could say, I want the Clinton Township in Macomb County. Now, when I go back to that area field, I only get the one that's going to fall in that county. So that's option 1. I promise I'm going somewhere with this example. Hang in there. Basically, that identifier, that 50 in front of that number, is going to always be the same as what's in the county. And that's because we use what we call the FIPS number, the Federal Identification Number. So if it says 50 for Macomb County, I know that that is the right Clinton Township because it starts with 50. Okay, so that's your first, but I promise I'm going somewhere. It's going to make sense in just a second. So again, if you were looking, if you didn't put the county in, and you were looking at Clinton Township, and I know Macomb County starts with a 50, I can identify it that way. But what if I told you, for the example with Flo, that she could bring up an entire list of all of the cities and then choose them all or deselect one or two that maybe her buyer didn't want? Okay, so let's do that. So there's kind of like a little secret or hidden shortcut here. If you go right over to the area, and you'll see this little magnifying glass right there. If you click on that and you say, I want to find everything that begins with 50, which would be everything in Macomb County, right? Flo could say, you know what? I want to search for all, there's 26 cities in Macomb County, and her investor wants everything except, again, maybe he doesn't want Fraser, maybe he doesn't want Centerline. All she has to do is deselect those two. And you see how I put everything in there? And you could do that with multiple counties too. So let's say that you were looking to also do that with Oakland County, because he's looking at Oakland County too. I could go ahead and I could actually, I think Oakland is 20, is it 25? I think it's 25 or 63. This the exact same thing. So maybe I want to go back to, if I wish I could remember, I wish my memory was a little bit better. It's 63,
63.
sorry. 63, thank you. So let's say we now want to go ahead and find all of the cities in Oakland County. I'm going to go back to area, click on the magnifying glass, same concept, begins with our 63. I was teaching in Flint and it was 25, but Genesee's 25. It's like they all start to run together when you teach all over. All right, so 63 begins with, I can see there are 64 cities in Oakland County. So I'm going to change this so I see all of them here in one big list. Now I can go ahead, I can select them all and maybe just deselect one or two that they weren't looking for. And so much easier than having to type them manually. So just a little time saving tip. I didn't know about it. My good friend Lisa taught me. And so I said, when we have classes, we should teach everybody that way, way simpler. All right, so but we're setting up our search for our comps. So we're going to look for everything that's for sale. The status, of course, that is most important here is closed. But again, being an old Floyd Wickman fan, I don't know if anybody even knows who Floyd Wickman is on this call, probably not. But he was a great real estate, really funny coach in the 80s. He made you wear a dunce hat if you didn't get a listing appointment. He was just a phenomenal coach, but he always said, if you're going to sit with a seller, you better know what's active, you better know what's pending. And I've always agreed with that because those sellers deserve to know that we're doing our homework on their property. So we've got our closed records, our active records, and our pending. I, by the way, hate these stupid MLS calendars where you have to click and then click 6 months back. I think that's ridiculous. So I like to use this drop down here. I just want to know what closed within the last 6 months, right? So I'm going to use my drop down and pick 6 months back. Not going to put in any price because that's obviously what we're trying to determine. I am going to include things like, I know it is a one-story home. I know that this home, from looking at the tax records in Realist and BSNA, I know that this home has 3 bedrooms. I know that this home has a 1.5 baths. I'm going to do 1 to 2. I know that it does have a basement. And I'm going to be honest, I really don't like to put in features when I am trying to find comps. And the reason I don't like to put in any features, like if it has a fireplace, I don't like to put that in because unfortunately we have agents today that really don't take the time to do their listings justice. And that means they're not checking anything that's not required. And it's unfortunate, but really when you're trying to find comps today, now, when we have 6 years worth of inventory, like we saw in 2007, 2008, then you can be a little more selective, right? But in this case, we're going to say, yes, it has a garage. Yes, it has a basement. But then how do you figure out square footage? Okay, so let's take the average age, especially if you're new. How do you know what the square footage range should be? If you've got a 5,000 square foot colonial, are you really going to compare that to a 1,000 square foot brick ranch? And the answer is no, not unless there's not any other comp on the planet, right? So, or in that area at least. So how do you know what that range is going to be? Your range is 20%. That's what appraisers use. They're going to use that 20% square footage range. Now, please keep in mind what I'm telling you is for the average sale. If you're pricing waterfront or you're pricing something way out in the country and there's no other homes for 5 blocks, and you're having a hard time, sometimes you have to broaden these comparables. I'm giving you the generic. This is what you're going to do in most cases, and what an appraiser certainly would do in this particular area. So we're going to take our 1361, which we got from all of our tax records, and we're just going to find out what is 20% of that. 272. So we're going to take our 272, right? Again, if you're new, you're going to take that 272 and you're going to add that 1361 to it. That's going to give you your top number. And then you're going to take that 1361 and you're going to minus that 272, and that's going to give you your bottom number. So that's going to tell you where your square footage range, what an appraiser is going to use for their numbers. So I'm just going to kind of plug this in here real quick. So we're going to put in our square footage and any additional details. Other additional details that you're going to want to put in here would be, I don't want to fill this all out from beginning to end because we'd be here all day, but you might want to go in and put in things like your school district. That's going to be very important. Those are things that definitely should be included in your comparables. But I want to show you some things in mapping too. So let's go in and really, if I put in all of Sterling Heights, that's not going to help us, right? Because really, we want to be within 1 mile. That's what an appraiser is going to be looking at. So we're going to go into our search by map. And here's another shortcut. Your map's always going to open up to where your office is located. Unless you change that in your preferences, you can change that. So that red X that you see generally will open up to your office. You can go into your preferences. Maybe you mainly work out of your home or you want it to be in your main point of business. You can change that. But really what I want to do is I want to put in my subject property up here because that's the area I want to go right to. But here's your little tip. If you put in the subject property, you want to leave off the ways, the places. It uses Google Maps. So what you want to do is you simply want to type in the route street address. So for instance, this happens to be 41539 Wessel Drive. You want to leave off the drives, the ways, the places, the courts, everything like that, leave it off. Put in the route street address, comma, and the city. So I'm going to do comma, which helps if I spell the city name correctly, Sterling Heights. Okay. Now I want to click that magnifying glass because I want to be directed right to that particular area, which it did. I also now, back this out just a little bit so you can see it better. I now want to stay within 1 mile of that subject property. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to say, okay, an appraiser is going to stay within 1 mile. That's what I want to do. I want to find my comps in there as well. And as you can see, there's one comp right here, and you're probably wondering, well, why are these numbers? And that's just because some of the flags are kind of close together here. So if they're really close together, and sometimes you know how it's hard to click the one behind it, they kind of just cluster them for you. So if you click on that cluster, you can still see them. You can still go through them one by one over here to the left. If you zoom in, it will decluster them. So as you get closer, you can see it'll turn them into flags, but they just do that really more for convenience. But let me show you something cool. Let's pretend for a moment that Flo has listed some beautiful waterfront properties. We're going to pretend for just a second that this happens to be waterfront right here, okay? We're going to say that we're that 344. So Flo listed this $1 million waterfront, but we've got this little brick ranch that's right over here. So how do we exclude that waterfront so we're not pulling in all of these properties that are nothing like our subject property, right? Because if we're looking in that 1 mile radius, let's say it's St. Clair Shores, or let's say it's Harrison Township, you've got your 1 mile radius, but it's pulling in all these $1 million listings, and yours is a home 10 streets off the water. It's nothing like that. Then you got to go deselect all those ones, and it's kind of a pain. So here's a little trick. If I wanted to deselect the area of waterfront, I can click on draw, and I like the polygon personally, and I can say, okay, I'm going to literally draw that waterfront area right here. And you're probably thinking, well, lady with the fuzzy hair, you just drew more area. Well, one more step. We're going to click on edit, and we're going to change that from includes to exclude. This is also a great way if you have a buyer looking in a really big area and you want to exclude a certain area that maybe their mother-in-law lives at the northwest corner of your map, and you wanted to kind of exclude that one particular area so they're not so close, you can actually draw that out and it will exclude that in your buyer searches. Or in this case, if you're, there's also a subdivision in Milford. I recently went on a listing appointment and half of the sub was new construction, half of the sub was older. So I just drew the line in my search. So I was only getting the comparables that I actually wanted. I didn't get the, 1930 brick ranches. I just got the new construction within that mile. So easy ways to customize it a little further. All right, so for the sake of not having a whole lot of comps, I'll just go ahead and leave our circle as it is. By the way, if you are listing a home that's a little ways away, let's say you're listing a home up in Rose City, and it's 2.5, 3 hours away, and you kind of want to check out the neighborhood before you went all the way up there. What is it in a neighborhood? Are they large lots? Is it, just more in a rural area? Here's another little tip. If you grab your little yellow Google man over here, you can actually drag them or set them right in front of your subject property. So if you kind of wanted to see the neighborhood, you can literally drag them to your map and it will show you exactly where you're about to let them go in front of. And this allows me to kind of walk the neighborhood without having to drive there. With gas prices still so high, that's kind of a good thing, right? So I can actually see, maybe if you're listing this particular home, you can see the home to the left, you can see the home to the right. Maybe it also reminded you to remind them that they might want to add a privacy fence if it's not so lovely. So these are all great things that you can kind of just tour that neighborhood ahead of time. So just using Google Maps, but it is a really nice way to kind of check out the neighborhood without having to drive all the way there. Okay. All right, so we've got our comparables. We've started putting in our data. We've picked our active, pending, and closed. Again, I would probably include things like school district here. If you're getting too many comps, obviously the more criteria you're putting in, the more you're filtering it down. However, because I've added active and pending, I'm really shooting for between 3 and 5 closed comps. That's really the goal. And obviously I want them to be like their particular home. In this case, because I've added active and pending, let's see what we got. So we're going to go ahead and hit our search. By the way, if you made a mistake anywhere along the line, maybe you're on your map and you got 1,000 results. Remember that now you can always click on these tabs and you can jump back to your criteria and fix anything. So don't worry. So I'm going to now hit run search. And I can see that I've got 16 comps. Now, I would have probably put in a little bit more criteria, but I like to also, because I have OCD, this makes me crazy, I like to actually sort it. I like my actives with my actives, my pendings with my pendings. So I'm going to click on this status. And now you can see, yep, got 2 actives here. I also, doesn't look like I have any pendings. Sadly, yesterday I had a pending, so that must have closed. So I'm going to go in and I now am going to probably add in things like year built to filter it down a little more. But for the sake of time, I'm just going to say that I have picked my 5 most comparable properties. Okay. Kind of gives you a little mini CMA up here too, so you know what your average list and sold price is, kind of right from here. But I think this looks kind of messy in the way my brain works with OCD. I don't like to see all the extra gobbledygook I'm not working with. So here's another little tip. I want to go up and I want to hit this checked box so that I'm really only seeing what I'm actually working with. All right. Okay, the moment of truth, all the hard work, and that, by the way, is the hardest part of Cloud CMA, is just picking your comps in Paragon. The next is finding the easy button. Let me show you where it is. It's right in your toolbar right here. And this is where you could send properties to showing time to schedule multiple properties at once. But in this case, we're going to look for Cloud CMA, but we don't want the buyer tour. We want the CMA one. There are two options. You want to click Cloud CMA. It's going to take all of those great properties that we just selected, and it's going to throw them into our Cloud CMA for us. You can see all of those numbers, which we used to have to manually key in, which was a headache because I would get half of them wrong. It will bring all of those over for you. The next thing I have to do is just name my report. So I'm going to call it Sally Seller. Now I also want to include my property address of the property I'm going to list. And the reason I want to do that is as I start filling it in, it's going to quick fill that information for me. And there's a reason. It's going to start pulling data for that property into my report too. As you can see, it's 3 bedrooms, 1 bath. It doesn't do the square footage because sometimes that can be wrong, but you could add the square footage in too. But remember how I told you I didn't like that Google overhead shot as my cover? This is where you can add that cover photo that we took from our public records photo. So I'm going to say I want to add my cover photo here. So I named it Class Today. I'm going to click on that. Maybe I kind of want to crop it up so we don't really see so much of that sidewalk in front. Sometimes you get the dates and stuff at the bottom too. So I'm going to go ahead. I've now added that cover photo. I'm going to go ahead and click Fetch Listings, and it's going to bring all that data into my template. So it's now going to not only give me one last look at these properties, but it's going to customize it with my company colors and all the information about my company. And that's kind of what makes this work so well, is that the hardest part is really just gathering all of the data in Paradigm, going through and getting your comps. So Cloud CMA itself is really just the 3 tabs that you see up here. Publish really just means save. So you don't even have to do anything on that tab. So let's take a look at those tabs. The first tab that you're seeing is kind of one more chance to look at the properties you selected. Now I can see, wow, that 100,000 is probably not going to be a good comparable. If I want to take a look at that, I can click on the notes and adjustments. This is where I can go through and I can see a little bit more about that house. I can see the remarks here. I can see when it was listed, when it was sold. I can also put notes in, like that this maybe was a foreclosure and it needed to be completely redone on the inside or something like that. I can also do positive or negative adjustments. Now, what's really cool about this, and a lot of people don't know, is in RPR, if you use the Realtor Property Resource, and I don't use a lot in RPR to be totally honest, but there is one thing I really like in that. Now, RPR is not something you get from the MLS. This is something that you actually get from the National Association of Realtors. But what it does is it has what they call a refined value tool, and you can actually put in an improvement or a garage or things like that. And you can figure out, based on that parcel, which is very important, what that value, what that positive or negative value would bring. So let me give you an example. It asks you, the agent, a series of questions. Like let's say Flo's seller did a kitchen remodel and they remodeled everything. They spent $25,000, put stainless steel appliances. It's absolutely beautiful. That same kitchen remodel is going to be worth a heck of a lot more in California in a lakefront kitchen, right? So what it does is it looks at the parcel and it asks the agent a series of questions. What did you think of the workmanship? How long ago did they do it? And it's obviously the older the improvement, the less it's worth, right? It will ask you what types of materials were used in this kitchen remodel, and then it will actually give you a tangible number. That's where you can plug this in, whether a positive or negative adjustment. And when I say negative, because let's say your house that you're going to list is the only house in the neighborhood without a garage. How do you figure out what the value of the garage is? Well, that's where you can use that tool, and then you can put that negative adjustment under this adjustment section. So I think it's really cool. Again, you can add a note, almost like if you did that Post-it note, as I mentioned. It said this one was completely remodeled. You know, you're sticking that on each one of your comparables. This is a way to make it look a whole lot nicer. It's actually just printed right out for you. So if I got all the way to this point, though, and I realized that's not a good comp, I can go ahead and simply just deselect it even from here. Now it's not going to count. So I don't have to worry about changing it from the beginning. Remember how I said you can also go in and set a suggested price. You can even do a price range here, by the way. So maybe you're looking at the average sales price and it's $295. Maybe you wanted to give them a range of two. Maybe you haven't seen the inside of the home yet. You want to give yourself a little wiggle room, and maybe we want to do 290,000 to 300,000. Maybe that's our range that we're going to give them for their suggested price range. You can actually type that in right here. All right, you can also drag and drop. It's kind of a funny story. My very first listing appointment, I remember having because my broker kept saying, Colleen, get that price down, get that price down, get that price down. So my very first comp was so low that the homeowner was kind of insulted. And so I almost didn't get to present my comp number two. And so sometimes it's also putting them in that particular order. And so you can put your comps in a suggested order by simply dragging and dropping them. So if I want this to be my first comp, maybe I want this to be my second comp, you can drag them into that order. So basically this screen you're looking at right here is just your look at it as the agent before you actually create it. The third screen is really where you're going to customize what you want to include in your particular report. So what I suggest is you want to make sure first that your theme matches your company colors. You do not want to go in there if you are, let's say with Remax, you do not want to go in with the Century 21 colors, right? You want to make sure that it matches. So what you want to do is you want to click on theme. I like the ones that are listed as modern. There's every color under the sun. There's also different themes like sunflowers and I mean, everything and anything. I like the ones that are listed as modern because they actually put your branding at the bottom. Some of the other ones just have a generic banner at the bottom. I didn't really like that. So I, being with Keller Williams, went with the black and red. So then you choose your theme, and that's going to carry that theme throughout. The next one that you want to look at is your layout. And layout refers to your comp layout. How do you want that to be displayed to your client? If you are printing these, you might want to have your layouts in rows so you don't have to use as much paper. I personally like the photo with max data. I think that gives you more information from the MLS, and I think it makes your CMA look better. But there are certainly different choices. My preference is really the photo with max data. You can pick different, you can upsell and buy some different covers and things like that. I tried the upsell. I personally didn't think it was really worth it, but if you're one of those people who likes all the bells and whistles, then you can certainly do that. Once you have your report set up like you want it, you can also hit template and you can save it. So anytime you prepare a report, you can find that particular template. But let me show you what I mean. So there are all these pre-written pages that they give you. I kind of think of it like this. Everything in this white section under your CMA report, that's everything that's going to be included in your report. Anything over here to the left, these are additional pieces that you can add. So if I want all the photos in, I can add that. If there's certain marketing pages like features that sell, I can add that in. Again, I'm kind of more of a meat and potatoes girl, but if you want to see what some of these are, you can just click on the title and it will give you a little preview of that page. So if I decide, yeah, I don't really want to put features that sell, they're selling fast enough already, you can go ahead and add things by simply clicking on the plus, or you can remove things that you don't want in your report. Okay, and if you want to see what it looks like, you can simply click on the title of the page where you see the little eye there, and it will always give you a preview so you can actually see what that report looks like. Okay, once you have your report set up just the way you want it, the key piece is to go up to your template here, and you can save your template. Maybe I want to call this Flows Template. And now anytime I want my template, by the way, whatever you set up and you leave off on, that's your default template. So even if you never save it, it will still save all of your preferences in that order. But sometimes you might like a long template and a short template, and you can name it. You know, this is my Pam template, or this is my really long extensive template, or my short template. So there are some that are already set up for you, like comps, follow-up reports, pre-listing. More people are getting into the pre-listing package, which I'm kind of excited about. 25 years ago, the pre-listing package was the thing we did, right? We put together a really nice package, and it had the listing agreement for the seller to look at before we got there. I was just listening to something the other day that was talking about this agent had customized this little video that first she would send a text and said, thanks, I'm looking forward to our listing appointment. In her text, she also had a link to her video that was like just a 2-minute video that said, hey, I'm going to come to your home. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to measure your home. I'm going to ask you some questions. We're going to fill out this paperwork. And it was really great. And so we're getting back into more of the selling again, which I love. So pre-listing packets are here as well. Okay, once you got all of your report set up just the way you want it, the last step is simply publishing your report. Just before I do that, I want to talk about those custom pages though. So we've got our report all set up, but how do you bring in the tax records? How do you bring in, maybe you've got a home warranty brochure you want to bring in to be part of it, or maybe you did pre-listing title work on the home and you had some questions and you wanted to make that part of your CMA. Very easy to bring any outside documents in, or even create your own. Maybe you've got a marketing plan that you want to bring in. How do you do that? You go right into Cloud. Under where my picture is, there's a bunch of options. There is a great lead generation tool that I love in here that we teach in the Cloud Beyond CMA's class. We also teach it in the lead generation class, and we teach it in the roadmap class. So it's got some very, very cool things that you can do and post on the social media and basically capture the lead so that you can work with those people. So I'm a huge fan of that. But in this case, I just want to show you how to pull in those custom pages. 2 ways to bring in custom pages. One, if it's something like your marketing plan, they give you some pre-generated templates of those types of things. So let me show you. Under the market action plan, if you wanted to put your marketing plan into place there, you can simply go to the pencil icon next to that marketing action plan, and you could tweak what they have in there for you. Maybe put your lockbox on, install the sign, shoot the property, do the Cuba Casa floor plan, whatever it happens to be. You can actually go in and tweak what they've already set up. You could also start a custom page. You could give it a title. Let's say we want to call this Colleen's home selling plan, or whatever you want it to. And you could add a custom page. You could put video links in, you could put photos, so you could actually design your own in here too. But most of us are really just using this to pull in outside sources, like the listing ticket, like the tax records, like the market stats, the fast stats that we looked at. So in that case, I'm just going to scroll down and upload that document. Now I want to give you a couple other real quick good examples. This was at home in Warren, I told you that I previously listed. This seller happened to be out of the country. We did the interactive presentation, but I didn't want to just tell him, yeah, I went to the home. He'd bought a couple homes in this area, and he'd never actually been to this home. He just purchased it, and he was leasing it out. Unfortunately, it fell into the people leasing it didn't take great care of it. And when I walked in, I literally splish splashed my way in because they had taken some of the pipes, some of the cupboards. It was not a good situation when I got in. At first, it had no C of O. So what I did is in my CMA, I took photos when I went through the home, and I included those in my CMA because I wanted to show them what the condition of the property was. Unfortunately, you can see all the stuff that was left behind. I tried to tidy it up a little as I was doing some of the, you can see some of the cupboards over here had been pulled off the wall. Here was that where the water was running. It was really kind of a mess. Unfortunately, I had left some animals at some time there, and the carpet was well, you can see not in great shape. So long story short, by taking the photos and including those in the CMA, that was very helpful too. Okay. So really, when you're pulling all of those in, and I think I closed my window here. There we go. When you're pulling all those in, the listing ticket, those photos, the market stats for that particular area. Um, for me, I want to be able to just pull everything in very quickly. So you can go right to the bottom, and I generally make a file folder right on my desktop of these types of things. Oh, another example before I show you how to upload it. There is a seller's net out in Cloud CMA. I am not a fan of it. I'm going to be honest, because you have to literally do the math for each item every time, and it just seemed like a lot of work. I didn't really like it. So what I do is, if you're using either Zip Form or Transaction Desk, you know how it gives you the calculated seller's net, as you can see here. I generally do it there, and I pull that in because that does all the calculations for you. Again, there is one in Cloud, but it's a lot of work, and I didn't find it as helpful. I like this one because literally it calculates everything for me. I just put in what the brokerage fee is, or I put in what this didn't happen to be from quite some time ago, but what the sales price was, what the title insurance was, and now it calculates it all out, and then I just pull that into my Cloud CMA report. So way easier. All right, let me go back. To bring in those outside details, you simply click upload your PDF. In this case, I am going to, let's say that this is my BSNA. I'm going to double click on it. It's going to bring it in, and now I can add it right to, so here's my BSNA record that we pulled today. So now when I'm ready to put that into my CMA report, let me show you. So I brought it into my custom documents. I'm going to click on CMA, and we made one called Sally Seller today. So I'm simply going to edit it to pull that custom page in. So first I always bring in all my custom pages. So I want to bring in my market stats. I want to bring in my listing ticket. I want to bring in my BSNA and real list record. Then I simply go to the CMA. I want to add them to. Click on edit. And once you do that, everything is there for you to bring it in. So I'm going to go to my customize. This is where you're going to customize your report. It'll be right here on the left-hand side under custom pages. So I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. It always drops them to the bottom. As you can see, I teach this class a lot, got a lot. I'm going to grab that BSNA example, just click on the plus. It's going to drop it right here at the bottom of what's in my report. But of course, you can drag and drop that. So maybe I want the BSNA record to be closer to the top. Simply just going to grab it, put it in the order you want. And lastly, you're going to publish it. So again, the easiest thing to do is bring in all those outside documents that you're going to make part of your CMA. Then when you're going through your report, all you have to do is go to those custom documents and drag them in. And so, there's so many different examples, and people over time have given me so many different examples that they bring in. Another one that I have, let's see if I can find it quickly, is I like to answer questions while we're going through the CMA. Like, one of the questions that people always ask is my home going to be on Zillow, right? So I actually have a page that just addresses that. It's called the sites. And it basically has all the top sites. It says we syndicate to over 400 real estate sites. And it also has some of the common logos, like Zillow and Realtor.com and Nest, and all of those has some of the logos there too. So having those types of things that you can, I think this is it right here. I'll show you this one. So you kind of get the idea. Having those things that you can handle those objections while you're going through the CMA, I think is very helpful too. So hopefully they can see some value in having all of those custom pages set up ahead of time. Okay, so that is all I have for you. So I know you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, That was a lot, and it is. We covered quite a bit today. We talked about market stats and bringing in the way to educate our seller. We talked about getting those BSNA records and Realist and possibly the MLS listing ticket and bringing those all into cloud. But just to kind of recap, we're really doing all of the hard work in Paragon. We're picking our comparables, we're putting in our criteria, and that's really the hardest part of any CMA. Then we're looking for the magic or easy button. You're going to find that under actions in the toolbar. You're going to click Cloud CMA and it's going to import all of that and start your CMA. You're going to literally walk through those 4 tabs at the top, and it's going to guide you through making sure you add in all those outside documents, and you've got everything set up. Don't be afraid to save it as a template so you can always go back to it. All right, Lisa, did I miss anything? Did we have any questions we wanted to throw out there?
Actually, everything was answered. There were pretty basic questions, and you answered everything else that I was looking to show them. So no, I think we're pretty good. They did ask about the recording. Will it be available tonight or by tomorrow?
I'll try to get it done tonight. I'm headed to the office. We've got a couple of meetings, so I'll try to get it done tonight. Sometimes it can take up to 24 hours. But again, you'll find those right under resources, recorded webinars, and all you have to do is click on the videos. I'll try to get it done tonight. Worst case scenario, it'll be up by tomorrow. And then just click on the class and it'll have the date right after it. So you'll know it was today's class. I try to put the date next to each one just so it's a little helpful if you're looking to follow that exact outline that you saw. All right. Well, thank you, Lisa. Thanks for answering all the questions and doing all the hard part so I could just go through it.
Oh, you're welcome. It's nice seeing everyone today, or at least
Yes.
seeing their names.
Yes, I know. I know. Well, happy selling, everybody. Hopefully you can go out and use Cloud CMA to go list some properties because we certainly need the inventory. So happy selling, and I hope you have a good day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye, Colleen. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.